Hey guys, I'm playing another blindfold game. I set the rating restriction to 1500 and above in this one, and I got a player 1565. So playing a Queen's Gambit declined as black. Again, you can see the move list on the side panel here, but I'll try not to look at that. So far, so normal. I played bishop e7 on move 3. That's a flexible move in the Queen's Gambit declined. It's designed to prevent bishop g5, or at least make white delay bishop g5 if they want to play it. He captured on d5. I'll take with my pawn. Now he's played bishop g5. I'm going to play c6 in this position. And if I'm able, I'll play bishop f5 on the next move. That's what I'm going to go for. Okay, he played queen c2, stopping bishop f5. But if I want to, I can play g6 in order to enable bishop f5. I could also castle, but then he gets a chance to play, for instance, e3 and bishop to d3, developing comfortably. So I did mention this in one of my previous videos, but a litmus test for black in the Queen's Gambit declined is, are you able to get out your light square bishop easily? If you're able to get this bishop into the game quickly, as I can do here with bishop f5, theoretically black shouldn't have many problems. I say theoretically because obviously there's going to be exceptions, but here I've kind of beaten him to the punch on the h7 b1 diagonal. I've got my bishop posted here before he could put his bishop on d3. He might still play bishop d3, I wouldn't doubt it, but then we'll exchange, and black getting rid of the bad bishop should be to his benefit. Okay, he chose to play queen b3, so he's not going to play his bishop out yet. Now, he is attacking my pawn on b7. I'm going to play queen b6, offering a queen trade. I'm not opposed to him taking. If he takes, I'll be able to take with a pawn and get the open A file. So I'm curious to see what he'll do against queen b6. With these blindfold games, I actually have plans to challenge some of the computers here on chess.com. I almost played Computer Impossible, which has about a, and he does trade queens, which has about a 2,000 standard rating or so. But I'm not too consistent with standard on chess.com, so I'm not sure how I'd fare against that engine in a blindfold game. So for now, I'm going to play it safe. He played king d2. That's an unusual move. Well, it's not such a big deal that he's keeping his king in the center because the queens are off the board now. I could play knight e4 check. I'll take him with the pawn probably, but then he'll play bishop takes e7. So I don't necessarily want to do that. I think I should just complete my development here. Yeah, I'm just going to play knight bd7. I think he'll go bishop d3. Although, bishop d3, now can I play knight e4 check? That's similar, though. It's a little different. If I go knight e4 check now, and he takes with the knight, then I take back with the pawn, and I'll be forking his bishop on d3 and his knight on f3. Okay, so that's what will be happening. But if knight e4 check, he should take with a bishop. Then I can take with my pawn. He'll play bishop takes e7. I can take his knight on f3 in between move. And then presumably he'll have to move this bishop away since my king will be attacking it. And once he does that, I can take his pawn on g2. The pawn on g2 is no longer protected by his bishop on f1. Okay, I like that. So I am going to do that. Check. And he did take with a bishop. Take the pawn. Yep. So he took here. I will take on f3 as planned. So this is a line that both of us would have to calculate in advance. Certainly for white, him playing bishop d3 here on move 12. I know I said I wasn't going to reference this, but him playing that move, he has to look at knight e4 check. If he didn't look at knight e4 check, or didn't calculate it properly, that's an error on his part. Okay, so he played bishop h4. And now I will take on g2 as planned. I can support this pawn for now. So I can play bishop h3. I'm just seeing now that he can go knight e2, though, perhaps, and bring the knight to f4. So now I'm wondering if I want to do that. I thought it would be easier for me to hang on to the g2 pawn, but I think I'm wrong about that. Yeah, if bishop h3, knight e2, and I can't stop him from getting into f4, can I? Okay. In that case, I think I want to pitch the g2 pawn and just try to create counterplay. Yeah, so I'm going to play b5 here, which does two things. One, it gives me the b6 square for my knight that is still standing on d7 at the moment. And two, I might be able to go b4 and chase this knight away. Just deciding what order I want to do this in. I'll play knight b6 first. I'll leave b4 on the back burner. So it's even material now. He got his pawn back. He played b3, restricting my knight. That's a good move. Smart decision. I don't want to play b4 yet. I kind of want to double now on the a file to give him something to think about with this a2 pawn. So I'm going to use his strategy. I'm going to play king d7. And my plan at the moment is to play, like, for instance, rook a6 and rook a8. And only then think about b4. Although I'm having doubts about that now, because b4 is a nice move. It would fix his pawns on b3 and a2. Well, good news is I see the position pretty clearly at the moment. One thing I was wondering is if commentating these blindfold games would inhibit my ability to maintain the position in my head, but in some ways I think it helps because I'm constantly talking about my thought process and it creates a stronger imprint, I feel. You went bishop f6, hitting my rook on h8. Well, I'll just centralize this rook. Then he played bishop here to e5. It's not threatening anything. It's just blocking the file. I'm going to continue with my plan. Do I want to bring the rook all the way into a3? I could do that. Originally I mentioned I was going to play rook a6, but why not go all the way into a3? Seems fine. He can't chase it away there. Yeah, let's do it. And we have rook e8 plus b4 on the agenda. If he plays b4 himself, then he would drop the knight on c3 right now. So that's a benefit of rook a3 over, let's say, rook a6. Plays h4. Okay. Shouldn't be overly concerning. If I purely wanted to stop or halt the advance of his h-pawn, I could play h5, but h4 isn't connected with any particular threat. So I'm going to continue as planned. Double. Yeah, I think this a2 pawn is going to fall now. I doubt he'll be able to defend that. And he resigned. Okay, well, I've had a couple quick victories in these. I can't blame him for resigning. I mean, b4, if he loses the a2 pawn, almost certainly the b3 pawn will also fall. And then I'll have a pass b pawn. My knight is on b6, ready to jump into c4 should the b3 pawn fall. So resignation is not premature here. Let me grab the game from my game archive. One moment, please. It's a little annoying. I have to go back and change the settings. So I'll go with the classic setting again. Again, this is under live chess settings. So save that. Probably have to log out of live chess to make sure it takes effect. Go to my profile. And here's the game. So just click on View and then Analyze in Live. Flip the board. So we had this Queen's Gambit declined. Yesterday in the video, blindfold video I recorded, I said it's usually a good idea to play an opening you're comfortable with in blindfold play. As you get more comfortable with playing with outside of the board, then it's good to expand and start playing stuff that pushes the envelope for you. So maybe if you're like let's say you're an e4, e5 player as black, you've never played anything but e5, double king pawn, maybe you play the Sicilian in a blindfold game. That will be a true test of your blindfold ability. There's a very well-known study that was done many years back. I don't even know. I think it was a psychologist who did this study. But he compared the way that chess professionals and amateurs were able to retain positions in their head. And to do this, he used like two different types of positions. One type of position was well known. It might come from like a common opening or from a famous game. And he'd ask the chess professional to retain it, and he'd ask the amateur chess player to retain it, and then he'd sweep the pieces off the board and have them reconstruct it. And not surprisingly, the chess professionals were able to do that with much greater accuracy compared to the amateurs. But then the second type of position he used, he set up the positions seemingly at random. Okay, so he, if you've ever studied, like you've done chess studies before, you know that they can sometimes be very random looking, positions you would not get in a normal game. And what happened there is that the amateur and the professional had basically the same results when they tried to retain it and set the positions back up. The professionals didn't do any better than the amateur did. So that sends a very clear message that the reason why professionals can play, like, let's say, blindfold simuls is because they revert to stuff that they know. And they play openings that they're comfortable with. They rely on patterns that they've rehearsed like thousands of times. So maybe one way to try to beat someone in a blindfold simul, let's say, is to play something off the wall. Make the professional really work to retain the position. So I played the Queen's Gambit declined here as black, e6. Played knight c3. I played bishop e7. Again, this move is designed to stop bishop g5. This is like the trendier move compared to knight f6, which used to be the main move. But nowadays, when you see very good players playing the black side of the Queen's Gambit decline, it's usually bishop e7 on move 3. We played knight f3, reasonable move. Knight f6. I'm not a fan of the capture, the early capture on d5 against the bishop e7 line. Or I should say more accurately, I'm not a fan of the capture in this exact position for white, because it opens this light square bishop, and there's a real good chance the bishop can get out to f5 quickly. So I think bishop f4 or bishop g5 are the better tries for an advantage here for white. So he captured, and then to his credit, he did play queen c2 coming up in order to prevent me from going bishop f5. One other point, by the way, I don't want to play bishop f5 here, because why? Take a second to answer that question. You can even pause the video and think about it if you want. Why is bishop f5 a bad move for black? All right, the answer is white can play bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, and queen b3, hitting d5 twice and hitting b7 once. Black will lose a pawn. So that queen b3 move is always a move you have to watch out for in d4, d5 openings if you're black. And really, almost any opening where you're developing the light square bishop early, queen b3 is a move you want to be on the alert for. So therefore, I played c6. That solves the d5 problem. Now d5 is well fortified. He went queen c2, stopping bishop f5 for now. And then I played g6. I seem to remember something about this position. I think a principled way for white to play this would be bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, e4. I could be wrong about this, but if he wants to try to take me to task for trying to get in bishop f5, this would be the way to deal with it. Although I'm not even sure about this. Don't take me at my word for this. But something like this looks active for white. Okay, going back. So queen c2, g6, he played e3, and I got in bishop f5. I think he really should just play bishop d3 here. Develop a piece. We trade the light square bishops, and black should be happy, as I said, because I got the light square bishops off the board. That's traditionally black's worst piece in QGD structures. So we'd be looking at a position like this, where white's main plan would be to go for a minority attack on the queen side, prepare a b4. And I could do an entire video on the minority attack. Maybe I will sometime. But suffice it to say, and you can take me at my word on this one, black is not at all worse here. In fact, in a lot of positions, I think he's better because the light square bishops have been exchanged. If you want a real cool illustration of this, there was a game by Garry Kasparov where he was black. And I'm trying to remember who his opponent was. But Kasparov played a real model Queen's Gambit decline game where he was able to trade the light square bishops early. He actually developed his knight through a6 and then into c7. If I find it, I'll post it in the comments to this. And he completely refuted white's minority attack. So my opponent played queen b3, then I played queen b6. We traded. This pawn structure is, simply put, just great for black. The ability to go b5, b4, and also knight d7 to b6, it's really liberating for the black position. We played king d2, played knight bd7. Now, I was mentioning here with bishop d3, in order to play that move, he'd really want to be calculating the consequences of knight e4. Technically, he should have calculated knight e4 back here. Maybe he did. But the line I was looking at was this, pawn takes, and he'd have to see that he has bishop takes e7 here. And he'd also have to see that no damage can be done because of that. So, like, he can retreat his bishop, and if I take on g2, he just recaptures. But the disconnect was that in the game, after knight bd7, he played bishop d3. Now the pawn on g2 is not guarded. So I can play knight e4 successfully. And if he were to take with the knight now, this would just be a fork, rather, on these two pieces. Bishop takes e7 would have no effect because I can just recapture. Black will win a piece. So therefore, he took with the bishop. Then I took here. He took here. I played the in-between move. Bishop takes, e takes f3, rather. He retreats the bishop because he doesn't want to lose that. And I take here. I mentioned in the previous video that even games where you seemingly win in one-sided fashion, there's something to be learned. So for me, one takeaway from this game is I made a miscalculation here, a misjudgment, because I thought bishop h3 would hold on to this pawn, but only once I got to this position did I start to realize, like, oh, actually, if I do that, he can play knight e2, and I can't stop his knight from getting here. That will attack my bishop on h3, I'll have to retreat it, and then he can take on g2. I've just lost time. So can't be afraid to make like mid-course adjustments like this. Like once I saw bishop h3 would be met by knight e2, I shifted tactics. I played b5. And I got my queenside play going. He took the pawn, and knight b6. So right around here is where white has to do something better than what he did in the game. So I think b3 is okay. That move can't be wrong. It stops knight b6. And I played king d7, so connecting the rooks. So right here, he needs to find some way to defend this pawn better. Maybe even king c1. This crossed my mind during the game. So then if I were to go rook a3 now, he can go king b2, and he has more protection here. I'll probably still double. Maybe this is the way to go. He's a little passive, but he's not losing anything at the moment. Maybe I can go bishop e6 later and threaten bishop takes b3. I don't know. But this is where he lost the thread in the game. b3, king d7, and then bishop f6. Tempting, but bishop f6 doesn't do anything other than get me to move my rook. And then bishop e5, also too slow. Rook a3. h4, definitely too slow. And then once I've doubled up here, threat of b4 is too strong. He's going to be losing a2, and most probably b3 as well. Yeah, I don't see any viable defense for him. If he loses a2, the position collapses. Okay, well, I'll try to find that Kasparov game I was alluding to. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them. And thanks a lot for watching, guys. Bye.